Good morning, and thank you for having me here. Thank you, Dr. Saleh, and the rest of the committee. Thank you so much. So I'd like to start my talk with this little video. I'm doing a talk on smartphones, so let's just listen to this little
Okay,
chat.
can I ask you something? 9 times 9.
81.
5 times 6.
30.
8 times 2.
16.
7 times 5.
35.
2 times 8.
16.
And 10 times 4.
40.
Okay, can I ask you a difficult one?
Yeah.
10 times 40.
400.
Wow, great.
So this child, I saw him a couple of weeks ago in my practice. He's 5 years old. He's actually been doing this before he went to KG. So he's actually learned all this before he started his KG1. He knew this from the age of 3. And the reason the children know all these stuff is because of apps like these and apps like these. So we are in a very different world where you have children of a lower age group coming to you with a high awareness of smartphones. And I thought that was a nice way to introduce, and that's probably the kind of patients we'll be seeing as we go along in practice. So my talk today is going to be off a smartphone, and frankly, it's the first time that I'm doing this. So there would be a few hiccups, and I'm sorry for them. All right, so at some point it'll turn over. Can I have my video again? There we go. Right, so I'll be talking on smartphones and ophthalmology. There are no financial interests. I will be showing a lot of apps and websites which are out there. Don't have any links to them, but the potential usefulness of smartphones in our field is actually evolving every day. And it's the ease of use which makes accessibility to information much more user-friendly, and it's across all ages, right from my mom and grandmom to my kids and younger. We have patients of all sorts using smartphones. And we had the tools that we had studies which show that 1 out of every 2 physicians uses a smartphone, and the usability of apps among ophthalmologists is actually as high as 80%. So what do we have out there as testing tools, as tools for the clinical ophthalmologist? To group it up, we've got testing tools, we've got physician education tools, we've got physician reference tools, we've got patient reference tools, and we've got calculators. So testing tools are not really going to replace office-based testing, because that office-based testing is an ideal condition. However, that said, it could be useful in inpatient consults, emergency room visits, home visits, and things of that sort. So what do we have in testing tools? We've got near vision cards, we've got color vision plates, pupil gauges, lights, pediatric fixation targets, Amsler grids, optic nerve head, OK and drum stimulators, etc. So these are little examples of the testing tools which we have out there, all at the click of your smartphone. So I use this quite often especially for pediatric fixation targets. Sometimes when you have a patient who calls you and says, listen, doc, I can't see at all, at least, and you've got a busy clinic, it's a Thursday night, you've got to go home, and you've seen this patient for years. One of the ways of doing this is I tell them to go back to this app, see what they can read, and just let me know. There are lots of apps which are available for various testing modalities. One of the most comprehensive one, which in my hands, is the iHandbook. It's there both on Google as well as Android. And it's very useful because it's got a lot of information which you would need as a physician in terms of calculators, in terms of coding, in terms of atlases, and for the patient as well, in terms of basic testing and things like that. So I would recommend actually go back, download it. It's a free download, and have a look at this app. When it comes to patient education, I think that's a very useful useful thing which we have on smartphones. We have instruction sheets, brochures, videos, simulators, which actually help showing the patient what the disease is actually doing to their eye. Again, some of the apps which I use are the Eye Handbook. Braille Institute has the Vision Sim. SNEC Singapore has got a couple of apps out there. My Eye Matters. Some of the industry have got apps like OptoSim. Now, when it comes to patient education, some of these apps have the ability to email information to a patient, which is very useful. So if you've seen a patient with glaucoma, for instance, and you've spoken to them about it, but now through your phone, if you've actually emailed the app to the patient, you've actually probably fulfilled some sort of a medical legal necessity of documenting that you actually transferred information and the patient knows about it. So that's one of the ways which I look at it. There are apps like the glaucoma app, which are very useful for medication, for remembering when to put in eye drops. So this is one. I'll be at the end of my talk. I'll try to go through some of these apps and show how they work. But this is a snapshot of Vision Sim, where you can actually scroll up and down the disease, and that little black spot in the center would increase or reduce based on the severity of the disease. So it's very useful to explain to a patient as to what is happening. SNEC has got this another comprehensive app which again talks about patient education. Of course, they can do appointments through it, so that's more comprehensive. But they have this app called My Eye Drop. So that's really beautiful, because you can actually, the patient can feed in the drops at the time that they need to put in, and whenever it's time, I tried it myself to see how it works. And you can get a regular beep, like a WhatsApp beep, or a notification on your phone saying your drops are due. So that's something, or an app like this, where you can actually put in your eye drop plan, what drop needs to go in on what eye. This app has an ability to put in doctor's visits in there, the basic things, whether the fields are good or not, what the pressure was, what the thickness was. And again, this sort of gets the patient more involved in the disease process, in understanding chronic conditions. Lots of physician reference tools out there. I could probably talk half an hour on the amount of tools that are out there. Skyscape is good, Medscape is good. You could look at these tools for cross-referencing. The AO website is very nice too. And there are apps like the clinical trial information, where you can actually look at all the trials which are available. Again, all these apps which I'm referring to in this talk are all free downloads, so there's nothing where you actually need to pay. From other office-based tools, what I find useful in my work, besides the glaucoma risk calculator and IOL calculators, is coding. Sure, most of us have HIS systems which do the coding. Before we had that, it was actually very useful to use one of these apps to be able to do your coding for day-to-day work. So what are the other novel uses of smartphones in ophthalmology? I mean, we've had lots of articles on that. Vinay Shah and Ken Lord have written on this in ophthalmology. They had another paper which was published in the Indian Journal in 2012, and a lot of my talk is actually based on that. So we use it for photography as well. Anterior segment pictures, like the images at the corner, are used just by holding the iPhone about a centimeter away from the eyepiece, and you get a fairly good diffuse illumination image. You can also use it for documenting or for taking a video of procedures like intravitreal injections. But one of the interesting things which is coming out there is fundus photography and then ultimately to teleophthalmology and mass screening. So why would I want to use a smartphone to document, to do fundus documentation? Well, because fundus cameras are expensive, they're costly, they're bulky. And well, smartphones are easily available. The cameras these days have very good quality. They have video recording capabilities, and they're well connected, 3G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whatever. So the technique is basically of a monocular indirect, where we use assistive light. So the light stays on the iPhone. It's a video mode with the flash on. And again, these slides are from a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Biju Raju, who is a retina specialist in Cochin. And some of the slides which I'm going to see, which you're going to see now, are actually all stuff which he's been doing on a day-to-day basis. So the technique is to use a 28 or a 20D lens, zoom into the maximum to make sure the screen fills the whole image, touch focus, and you will need to crop these images. It takes a lot of time learning this. I've tried it myself. It took me about a week or two to get to reasonable size images. It works for a dilated pupil. But these are the sort of images you see. Optic pit with a macula, and these are not from a fundus camera, that's from a smartphone. A start guards there, or a temporal pallor of the disc, again taken with a smartphone. This is a hyalodectomy which has been done after for a macular hemorrhage, and showing the vitreous strands. Or a tear with an infolding of the retina, a retinal hole, laser done, and the little image at the corner is an IOL capsule complex sitting in the retina. So these are some pretty dramatic images, or an ROP which is post-lasered. And of course, the Ozurdex implants, which can also be taken, we can actually have images done with a simple monocular smartphone. The choroidal abscess, again, done with the same technique. There are other ways of doing this. There are gadgets which have come out where you can actually put in little images there. There's a website called Peak, and they're trying to do this in a not-for-profit way, where they develop simple attachments to the iPhone to get pictures like this, or there are adapters out there which can be used. Well Challenge sells these eye examiners as well.
3 more minutes.
Yeah. And these are images which are taken from the ocular cell scope, which is the camera which I just showed earlier, as compared to a regular digital camera. I mean, you choose. Is there a difference? I don't know. There are, again, when you look what's out there, there's lots of options available. And one of the things which is very interesting in this world of selfies is a retina selfie. So there's this concept of doing retina selfies where you can actually turn the camera and have pictures taken. This is a second-year student who came up with this. But this concept could be used, has been taken forward by, if I'm right, it's at Harvard, where they're actually trying to do teleconsultations, use the same concept of retina selfie, have the patient be able to take the retinal pictures, beam it back to the doctor, and probably reduce a visit. It's called iMitra, it's there on the net, and I think as a concept to monitor diabetic retinopathy, I think it's brilliant. So, and just a word about what chaps in India are doing. There is a chap called Anand Vinekar. He had spoken, and they have got this kid drop model for checking retinopathy of for screening for ROP. So instead of a patient instead of an EUA, you have a technician in the periphery doing, taking a red cam, taking images, and the images go through the server, are seen by the doctor on the phone while he's in his clinic, and they then decide whether the patient needs to be brought in or not. So we are talking about ROP patients in peripheries where it's not always feasible for the doctor to go to all the places. You can actually have technicians train them. They have a grading system where they call the patient in. And again, these are the sort of images taken by the technicians, assessed by the doctor to decide whether the patient needs to come in. So I think this is a cost-effective way of documenting the fundus. There is a big role in teleophthalmology. There is a learning curve, no doubt, but these are new developments. And I think that the road ahead is beautiful. So thank you. I was hoping to show some one or two apps. If I can just choose one. Yeah, I'm okay for time. All right, so let me just show you how this one works. This one's called Via OptoSim. So if I have to show a patient about ARMD, we could actually, or a cataract, you could actually change the severity on the patient's phone while it's his image being done, and you can actually show various diseases, whether it's a cataract, whether it's a macular degeneration, and it's sometimes very easy for the patient to understand or comprehend what the disease is actually doing to the patient's eye. So, there's one last one, and yeah, there you go. This is another beautiful one. It's called Vision Sim. So if you've got a patient with a macular degeneration, it's got the associated symptoms there. You put in a launch simulator, and as you launch the sim, as you scroll this, you can actually show the way the disease is going to progress to the patient of the view, basically showing the patient the view of what he's seeing now and what the disease is going to do. So I think these things help in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you.